Alright guys, we're going to start our fourth installment looking at the hardships of war, the effects on both sides, the north side and the south side. So let's move forward and look at our essential question. What impact did the Civil War have on all who were involved? So we're going to look at soldier life all the way to civilian life. What you should be able to do is describe what life was like for Confederate and Union soldiers, explain what problems each side faced at home, and then describe how the war affected the southern economy and the northern economy. And then lastly, we're going to look briefly at the role of women. A soldier's life. Most soldiers were under 21. As the death toll rose, that age restriction broadened or was relaxed. In the South, it was as large as the gap in age or difference in age. It was 17 to 50, and this is large in part because of the amount of soldiers or the people they had to fight the war. New technologies are developed for the soldiers, and this added to the death toll. Again, advancement of technology. You had cone-shaped bullets, which allow for more accuracy. Improved cannons in terms of distance-wise, accuracy-wise as well. Nearly 1/4 or more of the soldiers were killed or wounded in most battles, and so technology plays a unique part. Remember, we discussed the ironclad ships in terms of blockades, and so technology contributes to the death toll in the life of soldiers. Soldiers received crude medical care. Surgeons routinely had to amputate injured arms and legs. Minor wounds became infected, and poor sanitary conditions resulted in disease. And so on the battlefield, women received great opportunities to serve, and we're going to talk more exclusively about that in class. But medical care, again, was very crude, very primitive, but because of the Civil War, many advancements occurred. Prisoners of war face horrifying conditions. Again, if you are a soldier and you're experiencing horrible conditions on your own side, once you capture soldiers, in terms of the living conditions, food and medical care, if you're not receiving the best, they're definitely not going to receive the best until the conditions were poor. Many soldiers simply deserted, looking at their fellow men, arms and legs being amputated, and the idea that they could escape that, a lot of them took the chance. So in the Union Army, you had 1 out of 7 soldiers deserted, and in the Confederate Army, you had 1 out of 9. So let's switch gears and look at opposition to war in the North, and then we'll look at it in the South. You had a group called the Copperheads. Basically, this is the group that opposed using force to keep the South in the Union in the first place. Other individuals just didn't like the way Lincoln was conducting the war in terms of strategy, in terms of enlistment. We're going to look at draft laws, etc. So the draft laws in the North offered men money to enlist, and often, again, these men would enlist and abuse the system. In order to be drafted, you had to be between the ages of 20 and 45, and if you were called to be to duty, you had to step up, but you would be paid for this. And we're going to look at that as well, opposition to some of the draft laws in class. One of the major problems with this draft law is that if you were wealthy and you can afford it, the men could avoid the draft by paying the government $300 or by hiring someone to serve in their place. And so, again, this system is taken advantage of, kind of corrupt in a sense. There's really not equality if you aren't financially able to pay money to avoid the draft. And then opposition to the draft law led to riots throughout northeastern cities. You'll see riots break out at these drafting stations throughout the North. Some of the problems that took place in the South, because as we said before, one of the weaknesses is that they had political problems. They had a weak federal government. Davis struggled to strengthen the government as he became president, so much to the point where Georgia even threatened to secede from the Confederacy and forged with the Union. The South's draft law was somewhat different. Men who owned or supervised 20 or more slaves did not have to serve. And then near to the end of the law, the war, you saw that close to some 3 million slaves were allowed to fight. But again, being near to the war, it really didn't have the impact that it could have had it been from the beginning on the Confederate side. So the northern economy was affected greatly, as well as the southern economy was affected because of the war. All right, you had taxation and inflation. Again, one of your key vocab terms. It established the nation's first income tax, so taxing on the money that you would make. Inflation rose. The prices went up and decreased in value, decreasing the value of money. And so again, this not only happened in the South, but it also took place in the North. So what were some of the economic benefits? Some of these, even today, are still take place when wartime happens. You have farm production increased, wartime demand for goods, helped manufacturing and the industries in the North. And profiteers, they charge excessive prices for goods that the government desperately needed. And so again, you have these government contracts that are set up, and these profiteers would jack up the prices or put up the prices, and again, that led to issues and problems in the financial system for the government. The southern economy suffered greatly. This is probably one of the major problems and reasons why the South didn't win the Civil War. The economy suffered. You had something called tax in kind, and this required farmers to turn over 1/10 of their crops to the government. And so, again, having to supply food for their soldiers was difficult. And so, again, you can imagine any farmer who's working hard and doing farm work, trying to survive, having to take 1/10 of their crops and give to the government. Big problem. The South printed money, and this led to hyperinflation. Again, just flooding the economic system with money, just to be able to pay soldiers and keep the government going, led to high inflation. One Confederate dollar was worth 2 cents in gold, and so you can see basically worthless. The war destroyed the cotton trade. Again, the inability to grow cotton and to trade with Europe. Davis tried to force England to side with them, use cotton as the issue, but if they couldn't supply them, if they were, as we're going to see later, being blockaded, then the trade suffered greatly. And so as the Union continued to successfully blockade the ports, the southern economy suffered because there was a shortage in supplies. They had few factories, it meant that they had to buy weapons from the Europeans. So if you have cotton shortages and you can't trade, and you can't make money from that, therefore the little bit of money you have, you need to buy weapons from Europeans. So it really didn't work out. And then on top of that, as we discussed, European sympathy for the Confederates has changed because of the Emancipation Proclamation, and also because of the growing sentiment against slavery in Europe. So go ahead and pause the video. Remember, log on to Moodle, submit your summary. If you have any questions, write those down about our notes. As we move into class, we'll discuss those and some other topics. Thanks.